Well, this turned into a terrible test bed. Testing weed killer requires two things: rain and sunshine. When I originally started this test, it had rained once a week for 5 weeks straight. After that, it rained for 2 days back to back in the summer, and then 1 day in the fall, and 1 day in the winter with only a few sprinkles in between. As for the second requirement, we had plenty of sunshine. Too much, in fact, with the hottest summer on record here in the Phoenix metro area. I don't know much that grows well when it is over 110 for weeks on end. I said I'd put more ground clear on the vinegar side, so now it's time to pull weeds and put down some more ground clear. But in all honesty, all I did was pull the weeds and let the heat and lack of water do the rest. Until now. Here's a different experiment, and I'll see if this pans out. I'm trying the experiment again, but this time I'm adding a little dish soap to the vinegar and applying both weed killers in direct sunlight during the heat of the day, following Jacob Burnish's suggestion in the comments in the last video. I'll be adding just over 1 teaspoon of dish soap per 1 gallon of regular vinegar. I also appreciate those of you who mentioned 30% vinegar in the comments last time. I'll try that out next time if this vinegar temperature solution doesn't work long term. The $2 to $3 price tag of a gallon of regular vinegar is much easier on the wallet than the $20 needed for a gallon of 30% vinegar. It also doesn't require gearing up in gloves, goggles, and other personal protection equipment to protect against splashes. I'm not saying you shouldn't be careful with regular vinegar, but the consequences are much lower. And you don't have to worry as much when you get willing assistance.
Thank you, love.
Because let's be real, spraying stuff can look fun to anyone who can't lift the big sprayer full of liquid around the entire yard yet. Good job.
Let's look in the side yard.
Now we just have to find a few similar sized weeds to see how long it takes for both ground clear and the new vinegar mixture to work. The current crop of weeds are a little older than last year's test. You can see for yourself, the weeds had a similar reaction to the straight vinegar and ground clear last year. I waited for a hot afternoon in May when we were above 100 degrees with reflective heat. Despite the soap and the vinegar, and applying both weed killers in direct sunlight, nothing immediately happened. A few days in, only the bottom leaves were brown. Just a few leaves visibly wilted in the time lapse. In contrast, kind of literally, it's pretty neat to see what did change in the negative version of these videos. You can clearly see the younger weeds on the vinegar and soap side in the foreground quickly wilted and are no longer an issue. But that's just the plants you see through a now heat-tested V2 Wisecam. Since I had an entire gallon of vinegar and soap mixed together, I decided to use it on the rest of the yard and put the rest of the mixed ground clear back in the original container. The weeds in the cracks of the driveway and sidewalk did the best, probably because of the radiant heat from the concrete. They were definitely gone within a few days. Other weeds in the back and front yard with direct morning sun exposure also reacted to the vinegar mix the way you and I would want them to react with weed killer, within just a few days. A few weeks in, after applying the weed killers, the weeds I chose for the side-by-side comparison between the soap and vinegar mix and the ground clear looked somewhat resilient. While the leaves along the bottom of the plants are all brown, you can see in the extended time lapse, some are unfortunately successfully still growing to seed on the vinegar side. I've already established the ground clear will work somewhere between a few weeks to a month and a half. In this side-by-side comparison, the ground clear stops the current growth and will eventually kill a hardy weed within a month or so, which is the same result from last year. I'd like to say it will keep additional weeds from growing for a year, but again, based on a lack of rain, I didn't exactly prove that to you with this newer formula yet. Of course, your own experience with any weed killer will depend on the type and age of the plants you're trying to eliminate, along with other environmental factors. I'll follow up again in the fall or next year and let you know if I put the rest of the ground clear on, if we get enough rain to grow another round of weeds, or if the vinegar mix worked. At this point, it's been 3 weeks. You can't really tell the difference between these two. This is ground clear, this is vinegar, and both of them just shedded the leaves on the bottom. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next Friday.
You're going to film me, Mom?